Good afternoon, and welcome to today's program titled Giving Nurses Time Back with Smarter, Future-Ready Visibility, Leveraging Hybrid RTLS to Improve Efficiency, Safety, and Long-Term Flexibility. My name is G. Hatfield, and I'm the CNO editor for HealthLeaders, and will serve as your moderator for today's program. Today's program is sponsored by Midmark. Thank you so much to our sponsor and to you in our audience for giving us your time and attention. Please note that an on-demand version of this program will be available approximately one day after the completion of the event and can be accessed using the same login link that you used for the live program. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping details. First, to ensure that you can see all of the content for the event, please maximize your event window and be sure to adjust your computer volume settings and/or PC speakers for optimal sound quality. Second, you will find a resources list for today's webinar on the lower right side of your screen. Here we have listed materials from our sponsor for you to interact with. Third, at the bottom of your console are multiple widgets you can use. Should you experience any technical difficulties during today's program and need assistance, please click on the Help widget, which has a question mark icon and covers common technical issues. Finally, it is my pleasure to introduce our speakers for today's program. First, we have Jeannie Kramer, who's the Senior Marketing Product Manager at Midmark RTLS, and Kim Barnhart, who is the Customer Success Coaching and Education Manager at Midmark RTLS as well. Thank you both for taking the time to speak with us today. And with that, the audience is yours.
Thank you, G. We're going to jump right into the content today. The mission really is clear and consistent across health systems: optimize staffing, protect caregivers, deliver exceptional patient experiences, and control rising costs. These priorities haven't changed over the years, but the conditions under which healthcare leaders are expected to achieve them have. Today's leaders are really navigating a perfect storm: chronic staffing shortages, rising workplace violence, and an epidemic of burnout are placing greater strain on nurses, workflows, and safety with every shift. We see health systems making technology decisions every day to combat these challenges. Getting a staffed arrest solution that's selected by security, or an asset tracking system that's chosen by the biomedical department, or location technology integrated into nurse call for automating workflows. Each of these choices solves something real, but the decisions are often made without an overarching strategy, and often without considering clinicians' needs or whether existing systems in the healthcare environment or existing infrastructure can already support these initiatives. What begins as progress quickly becomes patchwork: disconnected systems, duplicate investments, and a stack of point solutions that can't scale beyond a single use case. Eventually, we see care teams abandoning the same technology that was meant to help them. In fact, a growing body of evidence shows that fragmented technology is silently sabotaging the very goals healthcare systems are trying to achieve. A HIMSS study revealed that 60% of healthcare leaders cite technology silos as a major barrier to realizing the full benefits of digital health systems. And according to a recent survey, 60% of health systems use 50 or more digital tools, and 24% use over 150 separate software systems. This leads to rising staff fatigue and frustration, delayed clinical decisions, and longer lengths of stay.
And while these challenges show up in dashboards and reports, nurses feel the impact of this on a shift-by-shift basis. At the bedside, in the hallways, and in the moments when the systems are supposed to support them the most. For the frontline nurses, the consequences of fragmented technology aren't abstract. They show up in everyday caregiving. When locating technology is only capable of near enough, or when it doesn't integrate across the ecosystem, the impact is felt shift by shift. It's felt when a nurse presses her duress button, but the area that she's in isn't covered by the duress technology, leaving her without protection when it matters most. It's felt when alarms continue to escalate, even though a caregiver's already at the bedside, which is just adding noise, distraction, and frustration. It's felt when the critical equipment can't be found quickly because systems aren't accessible or accurate enough for the nursing team to rely on. The impact is felt in documentation that doesn't happen in the moment, so metrics don't really reflect the care delivery. Nurse call response times are hinging on manual button presses. Transfers and discharges in the EMR are lagging behind reality, relying on memory because there isn't enough time to document in the moment. Nurses are doing the work that location technology could and should eliminate. Instead, nurses are human middleware, stitching together a digital sprawl of systems that are meant to help but often distract from care. And perhaps the most costly of all is that leadership misses the chance to give time back to the nurses in ways that they feel or that they actually can feel during a shift. There's less searching, fewer interruptions, automated documentation, and faster, more reliable responses when a nurse sends a duress signal. For healthcare leaders, and particularly the CNO who's tasked with protecting staff, improving experience, and retaining talent, the gap isn't just operational, it's personal.
We are seeing leading health systems rethink their technology investments, especially location-based technology. No longer thinking about asset tracking, staff duress, and nurse call automation as point solutions, instead unifying them into a single real-time locating system as a long-term clinical infrastructure decision.
It's the difference between saying, we invested in another piece of technology and being able to say, we made care easier, safer, and more human.
So before we continue on and dive into RTLS technology and all of its benefits, let's take a moment for a quick poll question. Where is your organization on this journey? Do you have multiple systems still operating in silos? Are you beginning to unify and integrate location-based technologies? Or do you have a fully integrated single locating system already? I'll give you a few seconds to make your choice, and then we'll take a look at the results. Okay, let's last call here. We'll be moving on to the results next. Oh, actually, I can see we only have a couple submissions, so I'll keep it open for a little bit more. And we still have some responses rolling in. Okay, let's take a look at the results. Wow, a lot of folks on the call still have multiple systems operating in silos. A few of you are starting that journey, and a few also have that fully integrated single locating system. So that's fantastic. Thanks for those insights. So diving into RTLS, those who are not familiar with real-time locating systems, let's have a quick primer. Staff and patients wear locator badges, and equipment is tagged with a similar device. These badges and tags emit signals that are read by receivers, or sometimes called sensors, in an environment. These receivers can take many forms depending on the RTLS technology that's involved. Sometimes they are proprietary devices installed in the ceiling, or gateway devices plugged into common outlets. And if your health system has capable access points from your networking system, they can also be leveraged for RTLS. So each badge and tag is emitting an ID signal, and the receivers are also assigned an ID or a location. With some technologies, there's a one-to-one relationship between the badge and the receiver, and that can determine a room's certain location. With other technologies, the badge or tag is estimated through a process that's similar to a triangulation algorithm. Kim and I are going to talk through 5 RTLS use cases as well as integrations that can deliver shift-level improvements for nurses, starting with the use cases you may be most familiar with, staff duress and asset management, and then ending with others that you may not be as familiar with, nurse call and other interfaces, patient flow, and EMR integration.
Did you know that healthcare workers are 5 times more likely to experience violent injuries than the rest of the U.S. workforce? And that healthcare scene has been seen to have a 115% increase in violence since 2021. As a nurse myself, I know firsthand that many incidents do go unreported. And according to the American Nurses Association, the number is 20 to 60%, even though 1 in 4 nurses have experienced assault.
And while RTLS technology can't reduce violent incidents, it can allow staff to discreetly signal for help when they need it. Alerts tell responders who is in duress and where, so help can be sent quickly. These alerts can be sent to computer workstations, mobile phones, and even to the EMR. For example, Epic's recent release in November includes the ability to send staff duress alerts from compatible RTLS vendors directly into hyperspace or Rover phones.
When responders and staff know immediately that an incident is in progress and where it is, it shortens the response times and it improves situational awareness for all caregivers. As nurses go about their day, knowing that help is a button push away, it provides peace of mind while they care for their patients.
One New Jersey hospital we've worked with conducted a study looking at the duress incidents the year before implementing RTLS for staff duress and the year after. And despite a 39% increase in assaults, post-RTLS implementation results revealed a 93.5% decrease in the number of days lost from work due to injury, an 89% decrease in associated cost of lost wages. And these results were published in the Joint Commission's leading practice library.
The next use case we'll cover is asset tracking and management. When it comes to finding equipment in hospitals, one of the biggest issues RTLS solves is lost time. Biomedical technicians spend at least 30 minutes per shift rounding for equipment that needs to have maintenance. That adds up to 208 hours per year that each technician could be spending servicing that equipment. Nurses have the same problem. When nurses spend 30 minutes per shift searching in a 300-bed hospital, that adds up to a whopping 156,000 hours of clinical time that's lost every year. I'm sure that we've all heard or thought that our hospital has to buy more IV pumps or bladder scanners or whatever equipment it is that we can't seem to find. The truth is, hospitals have enough equipment and it's only in use 30 to 40% of the time, sitting idle 60 to 70% of the day. And it's just not in the right place at the right time.
As one of the most deployed use cases in healthcare, asset tracking helps teams find the equipment they need. Administrators can view reports to understand how often equipment is located in patient care areas or tucked away in inconvenient corners, which helps inform purchasing decisions. When using RTLS with a periodic automatic replenishment or PAR program, you can keep track of which units are short on equipment and which are overstocked to help facilitate the efficient redistribution of assets throughout the hospital.
So often we see asset tracking systems deployed to the biomed department in the hospital only, but this ability is important for nurses as well. One time I can remember off the top of my head going to look for an IV pump, and we had these really long hallways. By the time I went all the way down to the end to the clean equipment room to look to see if there were any available IV pumps and having to call for the SPD department to bring up a few, I had wasted a lot of time, which delayed being able to start the medication for the patient. One way to extend the asset tracking to nurses is to display the location of medical devices in the EMR, which is available when you integrate your RTLS to Epic. Even better, with well-run PAR management programs, nurses don't even have to consult the RTLS or the EMR to find equipment because it's already stocked and ready to go in their unit.
That's the case with one medical center in Michigan that we worked with. They set out to replace their fleet of 900 aging IV pumps. And clinical staff actually wanted them to purchase more than 1,000 because they could never find those 900 when they needed them. The hospital conducted 2 manual observation studies and found that their existing IV pumps were only used 30% of the time, and that happens to be the industry average. They took that opportunity to implement RTLS with PAR management, and that allowed them to purchase only 600 IV pumps instead of the 1,000 that were requested. And today their utilization rate is around 80%. Even after the cost of RTLS, they save more than $1 million on that capital expenditure.
Moving from the more well-known use cases into potentially less known, let's talk about a few of the RTLS solutions that help nurses with a lot of the little things that add up during a shift. We all know that staffing is huge, and it's a huge issue in healthcare today. But did you know that the cost of losing a single RN is more than $60,000? And when you consider that the average health system loses roughly 20% of its nursing force every year to turnover, that's significant. In fact, each 1% change in RN turnover can cost or save a hospital over $400,000 annually. So let's look at some of the ways RTLS can help alleviate burnout.
The first is nurse call automation. With location data, the nurse call system can automatically clear a call when the nurse enters the room and automatically document response times.
This little action adds up to save time over the length of a shift while reducing touch points in the spread of germs. And it ensures that response times are accurately documented. Let's review how it works. First, without RTLS, when responding to a patient call, the nurse has to reach for the cancel button on the head wall. It sounds easy, but is often not. Consider all the medical devices and wires surrounding the patient's beds, not to mention the bedside table or visitors. Reaching around these obstacles to press the cancel button is a task that the nurses perform countless times per day. It also drives one of the key metrics tracked in nursing units, which is response times. If a patient needs immediate assistance, the first thing that the nurse is going to do is focus on that patient, not press the cancel button, which skews the response time metrics. When we add RTLS to the picture, all the nurse has to do is enter the room and focus on the patient. We send the nurse's location to the nurse call system that triggers the nurse call system to clear the call. The response time is automatically reported so that the KPI is now based on accurate data versus a manual button press.
Nurse location can also automate other systems as well. By sending staff location data to your alarm management middleware system, you can make it smarter. If the alarm management system knows a staff member is in a patient room when an alarm is triggered, it can suppress the notification from reaching the caregiver's phone, lessening alarm fatigue and unnecessary interruptions in the patient care experience.
When you connect your RTLS to your patient engagement system, these platforms, including MyChart, Bedside, will automatically show caregiver credentials when entering the room. And this tends to put the patients more at ease, especially in situations where PPE may be used.
And digital whiteboards also use location data to help patients feel more informed about their care team. Many list recent staff visits, so even when the patient is asleep, they can wake up and see that they've been well cared for. At an internationally known children's hospital, staff attested that RTLS with nurse call automation helped reduce manual steps and improved caregiver satisfaction. RTLS is also integrated with Get Well Network, providing real-time staff identification on the in-room TV, building trust and reducing anxiety for pediatric patients and their families. It also provides visibility into who has seen the patient, which enhances safety, accountability, and parental peace of mind.
Those little things that happen during every shift add up to a lot of mental load for nurses. Here's another one. Needing to interact with the EMR on an almost constant basis. Nurses average more than 1,000 interactions per shift and spend 35 to 50% of their time in the EMR.
That's a lot, and RTLS can help alleviate some of those interactions with automated documentation. It's one of the ways that location data can make your existing systems smarter. Not only can clinicians see staff, patient, and equipment location in the same system they use on a daily basis, it can automate bed status, assignments, and transfers based on patient location. And it can timestamp patient milestones like their arrival in the OR.
No more waiting for someone to manually bed a patient. As soon as the patient arrives on your unit, their med list is available and you can begin care. Features like this help to improve patient flow and bed management while boosting staff efficiency.
By using RTLS integrated with Epic for bed management, one health system in the Southeast has significantly improved patient throughput with visibility to bed status and also improved their room turnover times, reducing overall lengths of stay by up to 37%. Most
of the use cases that we've covered so far today are related to inpatient care, but RTLS has relevance in ambulatory settings as well. Think about the times that you go to the doctor's office. The average patient spends only 32% of their visit with the physician, which means that you're spending 68% of your time waiting for care. Growing patient volumes and staff shortages are taking their toll on efficiency in doctors' offices, EDs, and surgery centers. Many of the headwinds that healthcare face are difficult, if not impossible, to change. However, one compounding factor is workflow, and that can be addressed.
The location of patients and staff can be combined to provide real-time insight into the care experience. A patient flow system using RTLS data can indicate how long patients have been waiting, who has seen them, and who hasn't seen them yet, helping to keep the care team in sync and patient flow progressing.
This reduces bottlenecks, improves room turnover, and supports better patient care experiences.
This technology is particularly useful in large multi-specialty offices, like this one in the Midwest, where 900 physicians see 2,400 patients daily. When planning this new facility to combine several freestanding clinics into one MOB, one of the biggest challenges was to optimize space and resources. The new building had only 178 exam rooms compared to 300 exam rooms in the combined freestanding clinics. And they were expecting 5 to 7% annual growth. With RTLS patient flow technology, clinic administrators are able to dynamically schedule rooms because they can see the room status, so that now providers don't actually own a room. Instead, they see patients in the next available exam room, increasing utilization of those exam spaces by 67%. And they used RTLS data to optimize processes, reducing the time patients spend in exam rooms by 40%.
Last but not least is RTLS analytics. While the technology provides all of these benefits in the moment, it's also collecting a wealth of data behind the scenes. I've personally helped our customers use this data to evaluate time nurses spend at the bedside, inform staffing decisions, trace a contagion, and more. When decisions are based on real data, not perceptions, buy-in and outcomes improve.
So we've covered how RTLS technology can improve healthcare workflow. Next, we're going to talk about the technology itself and how you can find the right fit for your health system. And I say that because there are different types of RTLS technology on the market, each generating location data using different methods. From Wi-Fi technology to Bluetooth low energy to infrared, ultrasound, ultra wideband. This is one of the most difficult decisions that healthcare leaders face during an RTLS evaluation is understanding each of these technologies, how they perform, and what is right for your health system. So the biggest difference in these technologies besides cost is the precision with which they determine location. So I'm actually going to start on the right side of this diagram with the room level and bed and chair level technologies. These are the traditional RTLS technologies that have been on the market for some time. They produce highly accurate location data and can do everything that we've talked about today. But the trade-off is that they can be expensive to install because you're deploying proprietary hardware throughout the hospital. And this expense has been a limiter for the potential of RTLS in healthcare. Skipping over to the far left, we have what I call zone level technology, and that uses Wi-Fi signals. Lots of hospitals have tried this type of tracking over the past decade because it's easy and relatively inexpensive to do with your existing Wi-Fi networking environment. The trade-off here is that it's not very precise. When you're using and tracking Wi-Fi signals from RTLS badges and tags, the location is triangulated and location is estimated. And with the properties of Wi-Fi signals in particular, we can only get accuracy to within about 5 to 15 meters. So if a Wi-Fi tracking system tells you that an IV pump is in a particular room, it might actually be several rooms away from the reported location or even on the floor above. And really it's useful to biomed to help limit their search for equipment. But if a nurse tried to use this kind of system, she's going to get frustrated when the equipment is not where the RTLS says it is, and it's not going to be useful for her. Finally, I have what we call near room RTLS, and that's using the latest technology on the market for real-time locating, Bluetooth low energy, or BLE for short. This technology also estimates the location of a tag with a type of triangulation, but thanks to the properties of Bluetooth, we can get much more granular data. Instead of the 5 to 15 meters with Wi-Fi, we can get 3 to 5 meters of accuracy with BLE. So if a Bluetooth-based system tells you an IV pump is in a patient room, it's probably there, but it might be in the room next door. Near room BLE technology is lower cost and easy to install and can be provided by existing infrastructure to create a facility-wide RTLS. It's really fantastic when you need to send help to the vicinity of a staff duress call or when you're looking to locate a patient or an IV pump. But what about the other high-value workflow automation use cases we spoke about? Automatically rooming a patient in the EMR, canceling a patient call when the nurse enters a room, suppressing alarms based on nurse location, optimizing patient flow based on patient and staff co-location. All of these use cases require room certain information. BLE can be accurate about 96% of the time, but we can't be clearing patient calls or transferring a patient to a bed when the location could be wrong 4 out of every 100 times. Really, 96% is just not good enough for some of these automation events that we like to do in healthcare. And when it comes to delivering on the promise of RTLS in healthcare, Bluetooth low energy, it really is an important part of the picture, but one RTLS technology isn't enough to do everything that RTLS can do. You can choose a highly accurate traditional technology, but you'll overspend deploying precise locating everywhere in every corner of the hospital. You can choose newer Bluetooth technology for cost effectiveness, but it will fall short when you're ready to do those precise room certain location automation events.
A hybrid RTLS approach makes it possible to deliver both clinical automation and broad coverage without forcing trade-offs. It's the difference between choosing a point-in-time solution or RTLS technology that scales with you over time. Providing cost-effective broad coverage with BLE for staff duress and asset tracking, and the future-proof flexibility to easily add precision locating technology where you need it, when you need it.
And as you embark on this journey, we want to make sure you're looking at your existing infrastructure to see where it fits into the puzzle. This is one place we see health systems fail to really analyze closely. Many nurse call systems are deployed with integrated RTLS, so you may already have that room certain location information in many of your patient care areas that you can leverage for your broader RTLS strategy. You can expand on that existing room level location that you have with the nurse call system with Bluetooth to create a facility-wide RTLS for staff duress and asset tracking. Another existing infrastructure that you can look at are the wireless access points deployed with your Wi-Fi system that gives you internet to your laptops and phones. While all of those systems are capable of producing zone-level locating using Wi-Fi signaling technology, the latest APs can also read Bluetooth signals. As Wi-Fi networks are refreshed, make sure you're asking your IT teams if they're doing that refresh with RTLS in mind, because you do have to design that networking system in such a way that enables RTLS. And you can start with that networking system for BLE-based staff duress and asset tracking. And then if you don't have that room certain precision yet, you can expand to that over time with newer, easy to deploy precision locating that's interoperable within the Bluetooth environment. And as a final wrap up, we're going to explore how we see RTLS evolving with AI, because you can't get away from the topic of AI in healthcare right now. But first, let's take a quick poll on how your organization is approaching the use of artificial intelligence. Are you primarily using vendor-provided AI solutions? Are you customizing those vendor solutions? Or maybe you're taking a hybrid approach, developing your own solutions as well? Are you building internally developed AI tools like proprietary assistants or agents? Are you exploring and piloting use cases right now, but maybe you haven't informed a full strategy? Or maybe you don't have any formal strategy yet. It's still early in the development of AI for healthcare, and that's certainly possible. So take a moment, let us know where your system is at on the artificial intelligence journey, and then we'll talk about how we see RTLS fitting into this new frontier in healthcare. Okay, looks like we have a fair number of responses. We'll go ahead and show the results. A little last call for you to get your choice in there. So a lot of you are using vendor-provided AI solutions. Some are customizing or taking an internal hybrid approach. A few more actually, are building internally developed AI tools. And a lot of exploration or no formal strategy. So really across the board here, which I think is expected as AI is really just beginning to make its impact on healthcare known. I attended HIMSS this year, and there was a lot of chatter about AI, but I think it also leads to a little bit of decision paralysis. What can AI really do in healthcare? And what claims are actually true versus hype. I saw a lot of indecision on those factors when we talked to health systems at HIMSS. So definitely understand how we are really across the board on this situation today. So where RTLS fits into this picture, you might have heard the term, if you're into looking at the latest AI news, headless software. It's an unfortunate term. We like to think of it more as being agent ready. So let me explain what that means. Today, most software requires a human to log in, look at a dashboard, interpret it, and decide what to do. And Midmark makes software that uses visual indicators to help call attention to patient flow or equipment shortages, but that software still requires a staff member with limited bandwidth to look in, glance at that screen and make sense of the data that we're presenting. In the near future, the human interface, the map or the dashboard, that's no longer going to be the product. Instead, it's the data with an AI assistant detecting patterns and recommending actions. The industry has recently, as I mentioned, termed this headless software, but we like to think about it as agent ready.
With an agent ready RTLS, you won't log in to find an IV pump. The agent will tell you that you're about to need a pump. And here's the closest one. You'll no longer need to look at the bed board to see if there's a room available. The agent will warn you about bottlenecks and how to avoid them.
And we're seeing leading health systems begin to build their own AI environments. And when we connect those environments to RTLS, those health systems will have the benefit of locating technology joined with all of their other data sources and have a natural language query access to it. So for example, find me a bladder scanner on my unit, or which patient rooms need to be rounded on right now. Our focus at our Midmark RTLS is making RTLS agent ready and agent agnostic. So health systems can use the AI agents to turn location data into real-time insight and action. Those agents might be deployed by Midmark, they might be deployed by the health system, or even within the EMR. Our role is to ensure that location data can empower intelligent insights and actions wherever those agents are operating. And no matter if you're a human looking at a map or relying on agentic AI as the user interface, the underlying location technology still needs to have precision where it matters and be scalable throughout your entire health system.
Before we go to questions, let's recap a few takeaways. First, one of the most valuable things you can give your nurses is time. And one of the ways that you can do that is to integrate location data into the systems that they use every day to simplify workflow and reduce manual tasks. And to do that, you can't rely on just one type of RTLS technology. You need a system that is scalable and easy to deploy while also providing the ability to add accuracy for advanced use cases.
Thanks, Tim. You really summed it up nicely. And I think with that, we're going to hand it over to look at what questions we've received.
Absolutely. So thank you both for this excellent presentation. This now brings us to the Q&A portion of the program. As a reminder, you may submit questions through the Q&A box in the lower left corner of the screen. And please note that all of your questions will remain anonymous. So we have one here first that says, does this go off of Wi-Fi or Bluetooth? That's a technology specific question.
Yeah, so the answer is kind of both. So your newer Wi-Fi access points or wireless access points, you might also hear them called WAPs. It's the devices installed in your environment that you log on to get internet from your laptop. Those can do double duty as BLE receivers. And the newest ones on the market do receive BLE. The badges or the asset tags can emit the BLE signal, and those wireless access points can pick them up and deliver them back to your RTLS vendor to help, again, estimate the location of that badge or tag.
Absolutely. And then somebody asked, thoughts on push button versus 1.5 press and hold?
I think that might be referring to staff duress and the types of button presses that you have available to you. So one of the things that we do to mitigate potential accidental button presses is have a longer button hold. There's pros and cons to each. If you know that you have to press and hold the button for a longer period of time in order to initiate a staff duress, that can work against you. It can work for you, depending upon the situation. If you're in a true duress situation, just being able to press that button with a moment's notice is the preferred way to go about it. Sometimes that can lead to some accidental button presses as well. So it really depends on your environment and how well you have educated your nurses on the purpose of the button and how to prevent false button presses.
Absolutely. So then sort of along the same vein, somebody asked, how can RTLS tech help with the workplace violence prevention before incidents escalate?
Before incidents escalate. So I think I mentioned it in our script that RTLS can't prevent violence from happening. You're always going to have volatile situations, but when those volatile situations come up, the simple act of the button press can send that notice to responders that an incident is happening, so that help with that de-escalation can come quicker to the incident and help de-escalate. I hope I said that right. Kim, you might have a thought on that as well.
I think you hit that right on the nail right on the head there, Jeannie. One thing I would say is obviously there are things that we are taught at the bedside, allowing ourselves to not be placed in the corner, right? Always have our way out of a room, and being able to have the classes that are given to us to de-escalate situations as much as possible. But like Jeannie said, we can't prevent how people are always going to respond, or we can't always change that. So having that button press is really the best opportunity for them to be able to get help. And one of the big pluses that I've seen about it, it is very discreet. So if there's a little bit of tension in the room and I just play with my badge and press that button, they don't have a clue that I've pressed that button to get help to come to me. So that's one of those discreet ways to get help quickly without maybe escalating the situation more than it needs to be.
Absolutely. And then this person says, where do most organizations start when they realize their systems are too fragmented?
That's a great question. Really, you have to take a critical look at all of the systems that you're using and understand the capabilities of each, and then which of those systems is going to give you the greatest capability for the goals that you're looking to achieve. So if you, for example, have a staff duress system that is based on Bluetooth technology, a lot of those systems can't be extended into doing things like sending nurse location to EMR. They just don't have that integration capability or the room's certain location information that's needed. So just understanding each of those systems in what capabilities each has is a great first step. We also, in our business, work with a network of systems integrators across the nation who can come into your environment and help you with that. So right now, these system integrators are able to come in and do a readiness assessment, help you assess those systems, and look at things like your Wi-Fi network and help you determine if it's BLE capable or not, or what existing system is tied to your nurse call, and is that extensible into a larger RTLS program. So you don't have to go it alone. There are resources available, local resources available with your local systems integrators that can help you through that.
Absolutely. And then what kind of pushback do you see from clinical staff and how do you overcome it?
I
So
think that's a good one
occasionally we will
too.
see this. Yeah. We will see this when staff will feel like it's Big Brother. One of the ways that we've been able to mitigate that, or a couple of ways, one is to have leadership be a part of the process. So instead of just having the clinical staff wear the badges, leaders wear the badges too, so that they can have that transparency and it doesn't feel so much like Big Brother, allowing them to have access to the system and have that transparency to know what's going on. Another way that I've seen be a little more successful is to have some of the end users at the table in the decision making process. So when they're involved, they don't feel like it's being pushed on them. They understand that most of the time it's there for their safety or it's there for improved efficiency for reducing manual tasks. So it's not something that's there to be a big brother type situation for them. And once they have that involvement, then it's easier for them to gain that momentum and to help their peers be a part of that process as well.
Absolutely. And then speaking of involving nurses, who needs to be involved internally to make this successful?
So I think it really depends on the use case, but there should always be some type of end user at the table so that they have their input. And again, it's not being pushed on them. They have that feedback that they can provide to let people know what's going to be beneficial to them. And they can see what it's intended for to have that opportunity. You know, if it's something that's going to be more clinically focused, you definitely want to have clinical people at the table. But if it's going to be asset tracking and it's biomed, you still need to have clinical people at the table because it's not just intended for one department. And that way it does help break down those silos and brings people together so that they're looking at the solutions from different perspectives and it's not just a single tunnel vision.
Awesome. And then just a couple more questions here. I think y'all touched on this a little bit already, but where do you see RTLS technology expanding in the future, even after the integration of AI?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of interesting AI use cases come about. The ability to do more predictive type of analytics or predictive actions and suggestions using the location data combined with things like scheduling data in your EMR, that type of thing is really has a ton of promise, especially, especially with the abilities of agentic AI taking advantage of that data.
Absolutely. And then finally, what are some key takeaways that you want listeners to understand about the use cases for RTLS?
I think the biggest thing and where we see education needed in the environment is just understanding the different RTLS technologies and the pros and cons of each of them. So every vendor uses a different mix of technologies, and you really need to understand the limitations of some technologies, as well as the benefits of the technologies, and understand which can solve your particular use case goals. And Kim, you might have another thought on that question too. The key takeaways.
No, I think you're right too. It's just a matter of looking at the solutions that are available, the different technologies, like you said, but also, again, bringing all the different roles together, as many as you can, so that everybody has a little bit of input and you can make a really good informed decision.
Absolutely. Well, that is all the time we have for today. So I want to thank you both, Jeannie and Kim, once again for this excellent presentation, and to our sponsor, Midmark, for making this program possible. And finally, thank you to everyone in our audience for participating today. We hope you'll join us in the future for another Health Leaders webinar. This concludes today's program. Thank you both.
Thank you.